Russians have too much freedom of speech, says the Kremlin. Putin's spokesman Peskov explained that censorship in Russia is necessary, but when the war is over, then freedom of speech will return. In reality, there are many people in Russian prisons who got real sentences for the word war. In Russian slang, it should be called a special military operation. Meanwhile, Peskov himself can say whatever he wants to.
In the state of war in which we currently are, restrictions are justified just as censorship is justified. We are in a state of war. Dmitry Peskov, Putin's spokesman from the Moscow Times.
On September 2nd, in an interview with the Mongolian newspaper Onodor, Putin said that the media are free in Russia and the authorities are supposedly cooperating with them in the constructive matter. The degree of this constructive interaction can be judged by the Global Expression Report's world ranking of freedom of information. In 2021, Russia ranked 113th out of 161 countries on the list. In 2024, it fell to 148th place. It now neighbors Equatorial Guinea, Qatar, Iran, and Tajikistan.
In summer of 2023, Roskomnadzor reported blocking access to 206,000 resources with inaccurate information about the war, discrediting the Russian army as well as calls for unauthorized actions from the publication of the Moscow Times.
Propaganda has completely replaced journalism in Russia, and the central brainwashing ground is the schools. According to calculations by the publication agency, Russian educational institutions will spend at least 1,300 hours out of 11,000 on propaganda in the beginning of the academic year. This is 3.5 times more than last year. In addition to the so-called conversations about important things, 34 hours will be allocated for the new discipline called family education and 272 hours for social studies, in which children are taught the values of the so-called Russian world.
The goal is simple, because dictatorship requires full support of the dictator, adoration, throwing your hands up when the dictator approaches. And this state is close to insanity. If at home and at school they sincerely believe in this happening, this horror and nightmare, then the child can be infected with it practically for life. But if it is done just to follow the curriculum and teachers are not really interested in it, then it's different.
War propaganda should be present even in physical education classes. The methodology of the Ministry of Education prescribes that wrestling students should learn to demonstrate, quote, a sense of pride in their homeland through the importance of sambo and the exploits of sambists during military operations. From the 1st of September, Russian schools will teach fundamentals of security and defense of the homeland. The teachers will be demobilized Russian military personnel, such as, for example, 51-year-old Andrei Shinyagin. In 2017, he was sentenced to 4 years in a general regime colony under the article on illegal deprivation of liberty.
According to the verdict published on the Moscow City Court website, Shinyagin and 3 of his accomplices tricked young women into entering a flat. There, posing as officers of the Foreign Intelligence Service, they beat them, undressed them, handcuffed, held them for hours, planted drugs and filmed it all on video. Afterwards, they extorted money from the women, threatening to hand over the video to their relatives and law enforcement agencies, the verdict says about 7 victims from the agency publication.
In 2022, Shinyagin was fighting against Ukraine, and now he will teach Russian school children. Criminals like Shinyagin are being prepared for teaching at the Vershina Center for Military Patriotic Education, specifically created on the basis of the State University of Education. Reported by Anastasia Tarnavska, Yulia Granovska, UATV News.